So this is what we call data analytics and visualization library. It is based on a very popular Plotly.js JavaScript widget library. It includes over 40 types of different charts. Some of them you could see on the screen now. We have multiple types of bindings, ways how the data from your Niagara station can be fed into these charts. All of these charts are highly customizable. And when I say highly, I mean there are literally hundreds of different aspects of each of these charts that can be changed. And because of this huge number of these attributes that could be changed, we also included context help. So when you edit them, you could see the description of each of these attributes. These charts can be added to the automatic reports, and they could be generated as PDF and sent to email. For historical values of historical data, we have advanced time range and rollups. And also for historical data, we allow for trend lines and forecast to be added. And let me go to the demonstration of that. So instead of showing all these various widgets, which, as I say, there are 40 of them, I will do a different approach. I will take one and we'll do some modifications of that widget to show you these attributes that we have, because these 3 features that I mentioned, 40 different types of widgets, different ways to get data from the Niagara, and a huge number of attributes for each of these widgets allows pretty much astonishing number of combinations and astonishing number of the charts that can be built. And some of our partners that already using this library, they created the charts that we didn't know are possible. So it's very, very interesting product. So what I will do, I will start with opening the palette. And normally we recommend just to open the palette. There are quite a few examples. So choose some of the existing widget and then modify it to fit your purposes. But that's not what I will do right now. I will just take an empty widget. There is nothing here. And I will build it. So we do need to add at least one binding, and the binding represents a trace or the series of points. They could be multiple traces. And this is basically the type of this chart. And these are these 40 types that I mentioned. And the type that I will choose is probably one of the most simple one, which is a bar chart. But it is also pretty powerful one. Bar charts are very, very powerful tool to represent various things. And I will just show I just needed to add at least one attribute, which is y, which is y coordinate, y axis, and then I will animate it to a few numeric points that I have. That's it. And these are real-time values. As you could see, they change slightly, and bar charts going up and down. So that was an example of real-time value binding or component binding. Let me show you how we could show historical data as well. I will remove that one, and instead I will animate the Y widget itself. Why I'm doing that? Because the history will give me quite a few points already. So I will just put it to one particular history. And let's assume that this history contains energy information, and each interval for one building, for example, and each interval contains some amount of kilowatt hours spent during this interval. So I will choose year to date, and I will do a rollup. So I would like to see the total consumption during this year of that history, and I will add rollup function, which is a sum. So I will just add together everything that was stored in this history during 1 year. One more thing that I also need to do is just to change a little bit the format. For component, the format represent the slots. So the slots or the properties within this component. But for the history, it represents the column within the history. And yeah, I will add one more binding just to show how they all look together. And I will just change test1 to test2. I have another history with the test2 name. Okay, so that's it. So it's just added together all the values from the history for this year for one building and for another building. Now let's do some, let's make it a little bit more pretty. So one thing that I don't like is this trace 0 and trace 1. That's not nice. So I will just add the names for each of these traces. I will call it building A. First building B. Good. And I don't know if I mentioned, but all of these charts are highly interactive. So the user can switch on and off these traces just by clicking on the legend and do some other things like zoom in. Let's do a few other things. One thing that I really don't like is this 0. And that happens because I don't have anything on the X axis. And this is what I will do. I could put some static number here, of course, so just a word, but I would rather animate it and just put timestamp here. And I will do the same with this one. So now it should take value to the y-axis and timestamp to the x. Okay, now it's better. We see the date, and this is a date when of the beginning of this rollup period. This is how Niagara rollups do work if you try to do the rollups in BQL, for example. But in this case, it does little sense. Yes, why we are showing the time, why we are showing the date, because it's annual data. So what I will do, I will just go to the x-axis configuration, and there is an attributes called tick format. It is basically, there is a special small language explaining how we could encode what to show and what not to show in these ticks. And this percentage y means I just want to see a year, nothing else. And that's it. So it just takes a year from this rollup period. Good. And now let's do something else. Let's add a title to the whole chart. I will call it, for example, energy consumption. I also will make it, we'll change the color of the font. And I change the size of the font. So the color will be, for example, this one. And the size I will make bigger. This is a title. Let's add titles to the axis as well. Nope, it's not here. It's actually here. So X will be year, and Y will be hours, for example. Okay, better. And of course, all the colors and all the sizes and everything is configurable. I also didn't mention that, well, bar chart shouldn't necessarily be vertical. It can be horizontal, so we could change the orientation of these lines. And in order to do that, we need to first change these formats. So swap X axis shall be a value and Y shall be a timestamp. And also we need to add one more attribute, which is orientation, and it should be changed from the vertical to horizontal, and they will be then horizontal. But I will not do it now. Instead, I will add a couple more bindings. They all will be bar charts. And I will just change the period. Instead of this year, I will add last year. Okay, good. It still needs to be cleaned a little bit, but basically it shows us 2 years for 2 buildings. One thing that if you want to compare, for example, total consumption, either building to another building or 1 year to another year, we can do one more thing. We can add the bar mode and change the bar mode from group to stack. And it will allow this bar chart to be stacked one on top of each other. So as I say, there is some cleaning needs to be done. We don't need so many legends, and for some reason there are too many years shown, but that's I will not do it at this time. What I will do, I will show that, okay, at this time we have a historical data, but in reality this historical data, we combined it into one number. Let us go and do the roll-up, not annual, but monthly roll-up. Good. So now it's one bar is 1 month. I will change a few things. So one thing is that this X axis makes no sense anymore. So this tick format showing just a year make no sense. And the other one, I will just put them back. No, I will leave them as a stack probably. Okay, now as you could see, it's automatically show us the month name. Yeah, let me change it back to the grouping. So the stacking allows us to compare the total consumption month by month. But if you want to compare building to another building, then it's better to show them this way. Then there might be a question, okay, we just played all with a bar chart. How hard would it be to do the very same and to show just a line chart? And the answer will be quite simple, because in this case, we have X and Y coordinates, and the line chart is using the very same coordinates. So I will just go and change it to scatter. So the line chart in this library is called scatter plot. Good. Now we have the very same, but as a line. I don't really like this line. It's too pointy. So let me try to do this thing. Let me add the line property attribute and underline. I have shape, and I will change shape from linear into the spline. Good. Now this line is quite smooth, as we could see. And one more thing I haven't demonstrated is that it is possible to combine different types of charts on one space. For example, like this one. So we show this one as bars and this one as a line. And one more thing, as I said previously, so there is quite a lot of interactivity here, and we can zoom in and out, we can move, we can switch on and off that thing. But there are some extra controls that could be added that will make it even more interesting. And let me add, I will add to the x-axis, I will add a thing called range slider. And I will just show it. Okay, and yeah, let me change this back to the scatter. I think it will be better. Now, as you can see, we have this range slider down below that user can use to change the size of this period that is shown above, and then we could navigate here. And that is especially useful if we have a lot of data. Let me get rid of one of them, and let me switch off the rollup. We don't use the rollup. So now I will show all the dots, all the points that we collected for the whole year. And there will be quite a few of them. So chart like that, well, it makes little sense. You cannot see a lot here, but if you use this range selector, the user can make it smaller and then could navigate and look for each day separately.